Not long ago, not far from here, there were a couple of friends. I mean, that's always going on everywhere, but for the sake of this story, we only care about these friends. There was a fisherman named Dalton and his non-fishing friend, Homer. Homer wanted to learn to fish like Dalton so he could have free fish dinners every night, just like Dalton. Some say that Dalton was a great fisherman, one of the best in all of Hawaii.
Who says that?
Some people. It doesn't matter. They say that. Anyway, Dalton knew of a fishing spot that was greater than any other. He told Homer he would take him to the secret spot where he always caught the most perfect fish. The only hang-up that was that the trail they had to hike was very long and very dangerous. But Dalton said, "It's worth it." The next day, Dalton and Homer got up early and put on pants to go up this very long, very dangerous, very dark trail. Homer assured Dalton that he packed lunches with snacks so they would be able to enjoy a long day at this perfect fishing spot. "What kind of snacks?" asked Dalton. Homer said, brownies, sandwiches, just snacks. So, Dalton led Homer up the very long, very dangerous, very dark, very treacherous trail. When they emerged from the very long, very dangerous, very dark, very treacherous, very steep trail, Dalton told Homer, "We're here." After setting up their perfect little camp, Dalton showed Homer how to bait the hooks and cast the lines, and then he put down his rods in those stupid little tube things.
Not stupid, they're called sand spike.
All right, so Dalton put his rods in the not stupid tube things and led Homer to admire their fine work. "What fine work," said Homer. "Time for a snack. Who wants brownies?" Homer offered Dalton a brownie, which he took eagerly and bit into it, but paused and said, "What is this?" Homer smiled and said, "These are my famous banana brownies." Dalton spit his banana onto the ground and said, "No!" And he knocked the bananas out of Homer's hands. Homer was sad to have lost his banana brownies, world famous that they were, and he offered Dalton a sandwich.
This is terrible. That's not scary. Bananas?
Well, it's scary if you're allergic to bananas, and if you don't know, bananas are terrible luck to bring on a fishing trip. Some might say you'll be cursed.
Okay, so they're cursed, but they're not scary. Come on.
So anyway, Dalton spit out his brownie, dives to stop Homer, knocks the rest of the bananas out of his hands. Homer asks, "Do you like Elvis sandwiches?" Dalton took a bite of sandwich. If you don't know about Elvis sandwiches, they are truly an abomination from beyond. It contains bacon, peanut butter, and bananas.
Not scary, but definitely disgusting.
Just wait, I'm getting there. So anyway, Dalton is finally like, "What's with these bananas? Why did you put bananas in everything?" Homer told him, "On my way home last night, I was walking past a cemetery, and I saw a banana tree with these perfect bananas. No one was going to need them, so I took them." Dalton told Homer this sounded like the worst idea he ever heard, but just as he was about to scold him on the dangers of bananas, they heard a whisper, "Who took my bananas?" Homer and Dalton looked around to see what had made the noise, but they didn't see anything. "Who took my bananas?" They grew frightened as the voice grew closer and closer. "Who took my bananas?" They looked towards the bushes where they heard a whoosh, 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 whoosh. A figure appeared and reached out to grab Dalton and Homer. Who took my bananas? Was it you? They turned to run, but slipped on the discarded banana brownies and plummeted off the cliff, where they were never heard from again. The figure gathered up the sandwiches and brownies and said, and floated away, disappearing.
Oh, wait, that's the next story.
Okay. All right. Okay. Once, maybe twice, on an island. On this island, there lived a fisherman. I mean, if you can call him that. He waited for fish, but never really caught any. Some say it's because of the curse. He was a yellow man, long and curvy. Fine. He was a regular man, regular size, and regular shape. James wasn't always a terrible fisherman. At one point, he was mediocre. He wanted to be great, so he asked the best fisherman he knew, Dalton. Dalton told James about the secret fishing spot, perhaps one of the best.
Is this the same place as the banana story?
No. Now shut up. This one wasn't very long, very dangerous, very dark, very treacherous, or a very steep trail. But it was a kind of long, kind of treacherous, kind of dark, kind of treacherous, but not very steep path. But there was a catch. Dalton told James that the secret spot was once used by a very old man, and that very old man always had a plethora of fish. He, on occasion, would bring someone to the fishing spot, and the fishing would always be fruitful. The fish would always be delicious, and in compliance with all state and federal fishing laws. Impressive, I know. However, if the guest did not thank him, he would drown them in the fishing spot.
What? Police weren't involved? Nobody investigated it?
What kind of
How did he drown them in the water? He's old, right?
Okay, so fine. Maybe he didn't drown them. He just cursed them.
A curse? That's not scary. Come on.
All right, so he drowned them, and then he used his magic powers to hide the bodies and make sure everyone forgot about him so the police never investigated. So Dalton told James that the man died long ago, old and happy and full of fish, or angry and vengeful, depending on who you ask. But the magic fishing spot was still there. So if you go down the kind of long, kind of dangerous, kind of dark, kind of treacherous, but not very steep path, you'll come to a fishing spot. Fish all you want, but there's a catch. You must thank the man, or the spirit of the man will give you the curse. James laughed at Dalton and said he didn't believe in curses. Dalton told him that the curse was real and powerful. So Dalton told James on the map where there was a kind of long, kind of dangerous, kind of dark, but not very treacherous and not very steep path to the secret and or magical fishing spot. The next day, James packed down his fishing gear and headed down the kind of long, kind of dark.
Really? Come on. That's kind of enough. Right?
All right, fine. So James heads down the fishing spot, and before long, he found the secret, magical, cursed fishing spot. He cast his line and almost immediately picked up a perfect and beautiful papio that was noticeably in compliance with all state and federal fishing laws. Ooh. James admired the fish, placed it in his cooler, and packed his stuff. He looked into the spot, wondering, should he thank the man? And then he laughed. Ha 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 ha! He packed up his stuff and didn't look back. Then when he returned home, James cleaned, gutted, and stuffed the fish, stuffing it with some lapchung and whatever else he felt was fancy, and he admired his fish. Took a bite and immediately noticed, he spat it out. It tasted like banana. Ugh, I hate bananas. Angrily, he thought he must be hallucinating, so he threw out the fish and went to bed. The next morning, James brewed a pot of coffee. He poured himself a cup and went to take a sip, but poked himself in the eye. He looked down at his mug, and there was a banana sticking out of it. James threw the banana in the sink and went to pour himself another cup of coffee, but out of the pot fell bananas. James left the house in a hurry, hungry, tired, and cranky. He stopped at a local breakfast nook to help ease his mind. The waitress bought him a delicious, steaming loco moco and placed it on the table. James stared at the food, closed his eyes, and went to take a bite and saw bananas! "Is this some kind of joke?" he screamed. "Where did my food go?" But the waitress, who only saw a perfect loco moco, wasn't going to take his bad attitude, so she threw him out of the restaurant and said, "What's wrong with you? Get out of here." At this point, James was feeling like he must be delirious, but everyone else didn't see it. He was like the King Midas of bananas. But no one else saw this curse, so he decided to go home and lay down. He went home, got under the covers, and closed his eyes. Within moments, he heard a rustle. James opened his eyes and looked around, but didn't see anything. The rustling continued. Then James heard a whisper. "You didn't find me." James looked around and sat up out of his bed, and he heard it again, louder. "You never thanked me." James saw something moving under the sheets towards him. "You never thanked me." James held his breath, ripped back the sheet, and screamed. Under the sheets was a bunch of bananas. James has never heard bananas.
That is just so racist. You just stop that.
Yes.
You need to stop talking about that yellow.
We've all seen troubled relationships, some worse than others. They all have highs and lows. But tonight, I'm going to tell you about a relationship that was so troubling, it continued even in death. There was a man, if you can call him that, named Dick. Dick was married to Alyssa, but he never was kind to her. It isn't known why Alyssa would stay with such a man, but you know how love is. It can be blind and it can be unbreakable. Dick had only one love, and it wasn't Alyssa. It was fishing. He was, at best, a subpar fisherman, but he still loved it. He would go every day, every night, and he would almost never be home to spend time with Alyssa. And when he was angry that he wasn't fishing. He was cruel to her, always yelling, always throwing things, never a kind word. Still, Alyssa remained faithful and kind to him because she thought that was the right thing to do. One day, Dick went fishing at one of his favorite fishing spots, but he was having trouble. Every time he thought he had a bite, he'd reel his line in, but the bait and hook would be gone. These fish must have fingers, he thought. But then it kept happening again and again until he was finally out of bait and out of hooks. He headed angrily home, much earlier than he planned. Alyssa greeted him, happy to see him home. "You're home early. Did you have a good catch?" Dick screamed and threw his stuff down. No, it was awful. Nothing, not one thing. He began emptying his bags and throwing everything he could. As he reached into one pocket, he pulled out a banana. "What is this?" he screamed. Alyssa cowered and said, "I packed you lunch." Dick stormed over her, still clutching the banana, and slapped her across the face. "Don't you know about bananas? They are full of bad luck for fishermen. This is all your fault." Dick started hitting her back and forth with the banana until it got all smashed up, and then he tried strangling her with the banana.
You can't do that, come on.
All right, fine. He stabbed her to death with the banana.
It's pretty damn dark, huh?
Well, Dick had killed his wife. He had no regrets. He hid her body. Dick was happy. He could now spend his life with his one true love, his pole. The next day, Dick got more hooks and returned to his fishing spot. But again, they had no luck. He would pull in his line and the bait or hooks would be gone. He opened his tackle box to get another hook, but the box was full of bananas. Thinking this must have been Alyssa sabotaging him from before. He threw everything away and went back to his favorite fishing store and replaced everything. But when he went back to his fishing spot, his bad luck continued. Nothing that bit would remain on the line, and there was no explanation for why this kept happening except for Alyssa. Dick looked to the sea and saw a floating head bobbing in the sea, just like a lantern. As it floated closer, Dick saw it was clearly the disembodied head of Alyssa. "Alyssa!" he screamed. "You did this to me!" Alyssa's floating head said, "Dick, you neglected me. You abused me. You love fishing more than me." "That's because fishing is great!" he yelled. "And now you're interrupting me! Dick, you were cruel to me in life and you finally murdered me. You will never catch another fish. You will live a long, miserable, fishless life until you die alone." And Alyssa was true to her word. Dick never caught another fish. And they say that if you neglect your partner in favor of fishing, you too will be cursed until you make amends with your partner. And some say that if you are truly cruel, Alyssa's floating head will come to your favorite fishing spot, gobble up your fish, take your lines and take your hook and replace your equipment with bananas, and maybe even gobble up you!
Them!
Every time you say that, I'm like, what's your fucking problem?
Wanna go eat?
All I ate today was a
You guys want to
salsa
join us?
crab sandwich.
Better than I am. You tried to scare us again.
The worst part is you knew he was there.
I know.
That wasn't even the best part.